Why Nations Fail: The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. Written by Daron Acemoglu and James A.Robinson. Introduction. A Tale of Two Cities. Imagine walking through Nogales, a city split in two by a border fence. The northern side, Nogales, Arizona, is bustling with paved roads, functioning public services, and thriving businesses. The southern half, Nogales, Sonora, while sharing the same name, culture, and geography, suffers from crime, poor healthcare, and stunted economic prospects. This stark contrast serves as the opening puzzle and metaphor of the book. What explains this dramatic difference? It's not race, climate, or work ethic. The key lies in institutions, the formal and informal rules that govern societies. One part of Nogales is embedded in a framework of democratic institutions that protect property rights, support innovation, and enforce the rule of law. The other part is constrained by weak institutions, where power is concentrated and unaccountable. This difference between inclusive and extractive institutions is the core of the book's thesis. Where institutions are inclusive, granting a broad swath of people the ability to participate in economic and political life, societies tend to flourish. Where they are extractive, concentrating power and wealth in the hands of a few, societies stagnate or regress. In this bookube, we follow this sweeping argument across time and space, unpacking the foundational claim that the fate of nations is determined not by natural endowments, but by the political choices that shape institutional paths. Chapter 1. The Anatomy of Extractive Institutions. Extractive institutions are built to funnel resources from the many to the few. These systems, whether monarchies, oligarchies, or authoritarian regimes, operate under a logic of exclusion. They limit the majority's participation in economic activity and block opportunities for upward mobility. Consider the colonial regimes in Latin America, where Spaniards created systems like the encomienda and mita to extract labor and wealth. Native populations were subjugated not just through brute force, but through institutional arrangements designed to sustain inequality. These systems survived independence, morphing into local versions of extraction led by post-colonial elites. Extractive institutions can generate economic growth, but only temporarily and unsustainably. Stalin's Soviet Union industrialized rapidly, but at the cost of immense human suffering and eventual stagnation. Similarly, Mobutu's Zaire built flashy infrastructure and amassed personal wealth for the ruling class, while public health and education crumbled. The deeper problem with extractive institutions is that they discourage innovation and investment. Why take risks if your success can be arbitrarily confiscated? Why invent, build, or expand if your achievements paint a target on your back? In such societies, fear replaces ambition, and economic potential is throttled by political insecurity. Chapter 2. Inclusive Institutions: The Power of Participation. Inclusive institutions are grounded in pluralism and legal fairness. They distribute political power broadly, allowing for contestation, accountability, and institutional renewal. Economically, they protect private property, encourage entrepreneurship, and ensure that rewards flow based on merit rather than proximity to power. England, after 1688, exemplifies this transformation. The Glorious Revolution reduced royal authority and strengthened Parliament, setting the stage for the Industrial Revolution. Property rights became more secure, innovation was rewarded, and wealth generation shifted from aristocratic privilege to entrepreneurial effort. In the United States, the Constitution institutionalized checks and balances, fostering a stable environment for investment and innovation. while imperfect and marred by its own exclusions, most notably slavery and disenfranchisement, it still planted the seeds for broad-based participation in political and economic life. Over time, inclusive institutions create positive feedback loops. As more people gain economic power, they demand greater political rights, which in turn fosters more inclusive economic policies. This virtuous cycle is how societies evolve toward greater prosperity and stability. However, such progress is never guaranteed. Inclusive systems require vigilant maintenance. Without it, they can decay, backslide, or be captured by elites who reshape them in extractive directions. Chapter 3: Critical Junctures and the Path of Nations. History is not linear. It's punctuated by critical junctures, transformative moments where institutions are shaken, reshaped, or overthrown. These moments can set nations on radically different trajectories, depending on the underlying balance of power. Take the impact of the Black Death. In Western Europe, labor scarcity empowered peasants, weakened feudal lords, and created conditions for more inclusive institutions. In Eastern Europe, however, elites doubled down on serfdom, reinforcing extraction and delaying modernization. Colonization offers another such juncture. In North America, the absence of dense native populations and extractable wealth forced settlers to create institutions that rewarded hard work and participation. In contrast, South America's rich silver mines and large native populations enabled extractive institutions to flourish, institutions that endured long after independence. More recent examples include the fall of the Berlin Wall or the Arab Spring. These upheavals created opportunities for political reconfiguration. Some nations embraced change and moved toward pluralism. Others fell back into repression or chaos. Whether a society turns a crisis into reform or regression depends on its pre-existing institutions, its coalition of social forces, and the ability of excluded groups to mobilize for genuine inclusion. Chapter 4: The Resistance of Elites. Even when inclusive institutions would benefit a nation as a whole, those who hold power often resist change. Why? Because inclusive reforms threaten their control. Giving people property rights, free speech, or fair trials means elites can no longer manipulate the system to their advantage. This resistance is most clearly seen in regimes that fear creative destruction, the process by which innovation displaces old economic structures. When new technologies or ideas emerge, they often render existing business models obsolete. Elites dependent on those models suppress progress to preserve their position. Examples abound. In early 19th century Austria-Hungary, railroads were resisted by land-owning nobles who feared losing their monopoly on transport. In modern dictatorships, the internet is often censored or blocked to prevent political mobilization. The fear of losing privilege creates a powerful iron law of oligarchy, where even reformist movements become extractive once in power. Breaking this cycle requires a shift in the underlying distribution of power, not just changing the people in charge, but changing the rules of the game. Chapter 5: Geography, Culture, and the Myths that Persist. Many theories of development blame geography, harsh climates, lack of resources, or disease burdens for poverty. Others point to culture, arguing that values, religion, or traditions explain success. But these factors, while relevant, cannot explain the enormous variation seen between neighboring countries or over time. Consider the Korean Peninsula. North and South Korea share the same geography, language, and culture. Yet one is a dictatorship marked by poverty and repression, while the other is a prosperous democracy. Institutions alone account for the divergence. In Africa, Botswana has defied the resource curse narrative by using its diamond wealth to build strong, accountable institutions. Meanwhile, countries with similar endowments have languished in conflict and corruption. The difference lies not in what they have, but in how they govern what they have. Culture is often shaped by institutions, not the other way around. When people are empowered and protected by fair rules, innovation and responsibility thrive. Where they are oppressed or ignored, fatalism and distrust take root. In this way, institutions are not only engines of prosperity, they are sculptors of values. Chapter 6: Sustaining Inclusive Institutions. Creating inclusive institutions is a monumental achievement. Sustaining them is a continuous struggle. Over time, even successful democracies can erode as complacency sets in or as new elites capture the state. The United States, for instance, has seen periods of backsliding, from Jim Crow laws to modern gerrymandering and voter suppression. When participation is undermined or economic inequality deepens, the foundations of inclusion begin to crack. Vigilance, education, and civic engagement are essential. So too is institutional innovation. Democracies must adapt to changing circumstances, whether it's digital disruption, climate migration, or global inequality. Static institutions, even if once inclusive, can become extractive if they no longer serve the majority. Strong institutions require feedback mechanisms. Independent courts, investigative journalism, grassroots activism, and transparent governance all help hold power to account. Without these safeguards, even the most robust democracies can decay from within. Ultimately, the fight for inclusive institutions is a fight for the soul of a nation. It is a long, unfinished journey, one that every generation must renew. Conclusion: the real cause of prosperity. In the end, the book delivers a powerful and sobering insight. Prosperity is not an accident of history or geography. It is the result of political choices. Nations fail when elites design systems that exclude, repress, and extract. They succeed when institutions are inclusive, fair, and accountable. No single blueprint guarantees success. But there is a clear compass. Societies must build institutions that protect rights, encourage participation, and distribute power. These are the foundations not only of economic growth, but of dignity and freedom. The lesson is both hopeful and urgent. Change is possible, but it requires struggle, sacrifice, and sustained engagement. Prosperity is not inherited, it is constructed, and its scaffolding is always political. This is what makes the book more than an academic exercise. It is a call to action, a mirror held to our societies, and a reminder that the future will be shaped not by chance, but by the rules we choose and the courage we bring to reshape them. Thanks for listening.
Did you enjoy this book summary? Got ideas on how we can make it even better? Drop us a quick note. We're always listening and learning from you.